IVM.
Always on the lookout for the best rated restaurants, the top rated movies, best deals on food and drinks. Now get to invest in the top rated mutual funds as well. Paytm Money app brings to you a wide range of mutual funds that have been rated by leading agencies like CRISIL, Morningstar and Value Research. Investing in these top rated funds will help you to accumulate higher wealth for all your financial goals. You can also go through the fund information and the scheme related documents on the app for greater detail. Yes, on Paytm Money, you get to know a bit more about the fund you are going to invest in. Investing in top rated funds was never this easy and transparent. So ab der kis baat ki? Download the Paytm Money app from the Play Store, get your KYC verified instantly and become investment ready within minutes. Ab top rated mutual funds ke liye bhi Paytm karo. Folks, welcome to Paisa Paisa. I'm your host Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter, and I hope that you are staying safe in these really troubled times. We just heard today that the lockdown all India has been pushed to May 3rd. All my best wishes are with all of you. And as always, a big thank you to everybody who's at the front line battling this battle, whether it's the doctors, nurses, healthcare, civic authorities, delivery people, and anyone who is making our lives that much easier to live inside our homes. Thank you so much for doing this for us. Okay, today's recording. We continue on Zoom, so the audio quality, it is what it is. I would love to be back in the studio, especially with today's guest, who's also based in Bombay. Maybe we will do that. As the Queen put it a few weeks ago, we will meet again. I hope to get back to the studio soon. But till then, we are doing this on Zoom. The audio quality is what it is. Today's episode is a really special one. It's about a topic that I've always wanted to cover for quite some time, which is investing in international markets. And that too in what I think is the world's largest index, the S&P 500. And Motilal Oswal is actually going to be coming out pretty soon with an NFO that's, for an index fund, which is going to be mimicking, or rather, which is going to be tracking the S&P 500. So for that, I have with me Pratik Oswal from Motilal Oswal, who's going to talk about the S&P 500 index fund that's going to be launched by Motilal Oswal soon. Of course, before that, we'll get into a lot of, we'll start off the discussion talking about the concept of investing abroad and how that works. So, Pratik, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this for us. Welcome to Paisa Paisa. Let's start off with your background. How, when you were in college, did you think that one fine day I'm going to be starting an S&P 500 fund? Let's start from there.
Thank you, Anupam. I'm a big fan, to be honest, so I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
So I do hear Paisa Paisa all the time.
Sure.
And in fact, I got into podcasts very early on, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, when I had a commute of almost 1.5 hours to work and back every day.
Wow.
So I think I'm a big fan of podcasts in general. And I would say a lot of my learnings have actually come from podcasts over the last few years. So anyway, that was just, But in terms of, my background, so I'm currently heading passive funds at Motilal Oswal AMC. So it's something that we recently initiated, I would say, around 6 to 8 months ago. And since then, we've launched a host of index funds, I would say 6 of them. And we're launching a 7th one, which is an international fund, the S&P 500 that you spoke about. In terms of my background...
Yeah. Sorry, go on. Yeah, your background.
No, in terms of my background, so, I've been in finance now for, almost, I would say more than a decade. Worked for my first half of my 20s in more traditional finance, so investment banking, private equity, hedge funds. But then my second half of my 20s, I actually worked in technology. So before I was in Silicon Valley, where I was running a company where we actually built solutions on top of passive funds. So we took a very simple passive fund, like a long-only S&P 500, and we sort of wrapped it around like an option strategy and sold it to advisors in the US. So
wow.
we scaled up pretty quickly, started with $35 million, went up to almost $500 million in almost a year now. So I think it did pretty well. And we also, sort of went to the entire sort of Silicon Valley sort of growth, took VC money and all of that. So I think that was good fun. After I came back to India, and this was, I would say, a year and a half ago, I asked myself, where are the passive funds in India, so because I wanted to invest, because I have had a lot of experience in them. And and that's how I I think, the idea was that there were a few ETFs out there, but the liquidity was quite bad. and also the index funds weren't really that popular or tradable. So which is why we sort of started this vertical MOMC, and that's
okay.
Yeah.
So just to for my listeners to get to know the existing Motilal Oswal funds better, and also which of them are ETFs and which of them are index funds, because I'm maybe I've lost track, but the Nasdaq 100 was a really popular product of yours. So could you just tell us
Yes.
you said that there were 6 of them. So
Yes.
which of them are ETFs and which of them are index funds?
Yes. So actually, most people don't know this. But Motilal Oswal actually started their AMC business back in 2010 as an ETF house. So we actually launched India's first smart beta ETF way back in 2010. It was called the M50 Remixed. So basically, it was the Nifty 50 stocks, but we changed the weightages and we added some filters, and so that was a product that we had launched in back, I think, almost 10 years ago. And I think even though we did well on the NFO, what we realized is that the customer segment wasn't ready for that sort of product. In fact, even today, I don't see customers understanding smart beta as well. So, so I think and also we got phone calls from customers, asking us, why is this fund manager buying this stock? Why is he selling this stock? It's very hard for us to tell the customer that, boss, there is no fund manager. We have this algorithm that's at the back end that's doing all the decision making. So I think that was, and I think after that we also launched two other ETFs, one mid cap and one Nasdaq. So far, we have 10 funds in total. So we have 3 ETFs, and so I think we have 9 funds and 10 coming up. So 3 ETFs and 6 index funds, and also one FOF, which is a Nasdaq. And then I think now we're launching the 11th fund, which is the S&P 500. So I think if you include the S&P 500, Motilal Oswal today has funds across large cap, mid cap, small cap, multi cap, sector, as well as international. So the idea behind this business is to offer building blocks to our customers so that they can do asset allocation, for their portfolios.
Okay, understood. So now, just 2 questions, because I just, I want to wrap up the first part on the concepts and then go into the product on the second side of the show. So first, just a very brief mention to our listeners on the difference between an ETF and an index fund. That's the first question. And the second is the concept of investing abroad, because the S&P 500 is actually, someone in India investing in markets abroad. So what is the concept and why should one do it? First, like I said, the difference between an ETF and an index fund.
Yeah, sure. So, so I think the differences are pretty, so let me talk about, ETFs versus index funds. What are the main differences and why we have chosen as a group to go more sort of passionate about index funds. But I think broad differences, ETFs are instruments that are traded on the exchange. So ETF is basically, it's like a stock, but it acts like a fund. So what it means is that if you buy a Nifty 50 ETF on the exchange, you're actually buying the top 50 companies of India in the same weightages as a Nifty, but you're buying on the exchange. So you can basically, in an ETF, you can buy in the morning and sell in the afternoon and buy again in the evening. Whereas in an index fund, it runs like a regular mutual fund. So in an index fund, you don't really need to have a demat account. You don't need to buy it on the exchange. So all you have to do is go to an AMC, give them money and they'll give you units in exchange. So you can buy them once a day, which is end of day. So that is the main differences. In an index fund, you can set up SIPs. You don't need a demat account. And also there are not that many intermediaries involved, So, even though ETFs have done very well globally, what I've seen in India so far is that, if you see ETFs today, they are not the most customer-centric instrument. And the reason why I would say that is because, today for ETFs, investor has to go through a market maker, a broker, an exchange, a lot of intermediaries, So, and what happens is, what inevitably happens is that the investor ends up overpaying on, so the impact cost is very high. So what that means is if the underlying portfolio is valued at 100, because there's no liquidity on the exchange, an investors end up paying 101 or 102 or even 103. So today with investors buying and selling ETFs, they're actually buying it above value and selling it below value. So just to give you an example, if you the last 3 or 4 weeks, the volatility on the exchange has been quite high.
Yes.
So we have seen differences of, upwards of 5 or 6, so sometimes even 10% for some of the ETFs. So I think, so, we sort of, so we had a call last year that, I think, and even if you see the US, just to give you a simple analogy, the first ever passive fund launched, in fact, the first ever passive fund launched was the S&P 500, and that this was in 1975. But ETFs came in 20 years later, when the institutions start coming in. So, so ideally, I think it's a more customer-friendly product, and which is why we prefer index funds over ETFs. So, coming to the international investing,
yes,
so that is something which is becoming a huge theme, especially over the last, say, 6 to 12 months. I think so. We already have the Nasdaq ETF and Nasdaq Fund of Funds. So we have both versions of the same fund. You can either buy the Fund of Funds, you can either buy the ETF. And what we've learned is that, apart from the returns have been phenomenal since day one. But, international diversification as an asset class has really I think, grown a lot, especially for the retail audiences. And the reason why I say it's grown is because, I think people have understood the value of international diversification for their portfolio. So today, I think one big conversation that everyone or most advisors, AMC personnel are talking about is asset allocation. So asset allocation is how I think even if you look at the US, every portfolio is optimized via asset allocation. And the whole and the key tenet of asset allocation is to make sure that the asset classes in a portfolio are not correlated.
Okay.
So so what do I mean by correlation? If you today, we assume, including me, that, if you buy a mid-cap fund or a large-cap or a multi-cap fund, we're buying enough fund that will, make sure our risk is diversified, right? But, what happens if you saw the last 2 or 3 months, regardless of if you held a mid-cap or a large-cap or a multi-cap, things fell together. So, and I think, which is why, I think people have realized that, international diversification makes a lot of sense because the correlation is actually very low. In fact, for the S&P 500, the correlation of this fund is 0.15, 15%, which is even lower than gold, I would say, whereas I think Indian indices would be around 80 to 90%. So I think what it does is that, if you add an allocation to internationals, you are really lowering the volatility of the portfolio in a big way. And you're also, giving your portfolio some sort of downside protection, in case there's volatile events in either countries. Number one. And number two, you're also hedging yourself of global market, of India, of domestic or local market risk. What that means is that, today, if you look at the world GDP, India is, I would say, 3 to maybe 2.5-3% of global GDP. Whereas America is close to 25%. So all of us, are basically only playing in that 3%. That entire 97% is something that, we're not even considering. So I think international funds give you access to that extra 95% and also make sure that, if we have any sort of local market risk, that gets hedged out. So I think that is one big reason to why international investing is grown. And also, I think even in terms of returns, I think the main reason I would say to why international investing is grown is because the dollar has actually worked against us in a big way, especially over the last decade. So let me give you an example.
Sure.
Suppose, I had a friend in the US, who had invested in India, and I do have friends who invested in India in the last, say, 10 years. Say, suppose someone had given money in 2010. So his return, would have been, I think, over 10 years, 0.8% CAGR.
Okay.
Versus the same investor in India would have made between 10 to 12%.
Wow. That's a big difference. Yeah.
That's a huge difference. Difference. And imagine if it's the other way around. Imagine if you were an Indian investor investing abroad. So, for example, just to give an example, the Nasdaq fund, even though the underlying index has only grown, say, 10 to 12%, Indian investor would have made upwards of 22-23% CAGR for the last decade.
Right.
So I think
you're saying that the currency tailwind itself can give you about 1 to 2% per year without you doing anything at all for that.
3 to 5% is what the trend is.
Wow.
And this is CAGR. This is not absolute amount. This is CAGR.
So it compounds every year that much. So you hold it for 10 years. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So just to give you raw figures, so a Nasdaq fund, and these are real numbers.
Yeah.
A Nasdaq fund, when we launched in 2011. The fund, since then, the US fund has grown around 4x, which I think is quite big.
Yeah.
Our Motilal Oswal fund is up almost, I think, 6.5 or 7 times.
Wow.
So the extra 3x, what you're getting, or 300%, is basically because of dollar depreciation. And I think the argument against that, so why should I care? Why should I care if I get dollar returns or if I have my assets in dollar-denominated assets? The answer to that is that if you think about it, a lot of our spending today is happening in dollar. So if I went to the same school as I did 10 years ago in the US, the cost of the same education would cost me 2.5, maybe 3 times.
Wow. So that's kind of like a hedge for inflation also.
Yeah. So if you think about it, the reason why the iPhone is so expensive in India is less to do with how much it's increased in the US. It's more to do with, how much the dollar has gone against us. The reason why it's 1.5 lakh rupees is simply because of the dollars worked against us. So I think a lot of our spending exponential, or at least increasingly, today, at least a lot of people in their 30s and 40s and 50s are spending more in foreign products, so we're buying Nike shoes or whatever, we're traveling abroad, we're studying abroad, all of that. So I think it's important to understand that our goals, our future goals are also linked to that specific currency of that goal. So, so which is why I think, and I think, and even if you look at experts, we do expect currency to continue to sort of depreciate, at least INR, over the next few years. So I think that is a huge hedge, that huge risk that, I think international funds help in sort of mitigating.
Okay, understood. So we're going to wrap up this first part of our recording right here. We're on the other side of the show, we're going to come back with specifics of the S&P 500 index fund that's going to be launched. I'm Motilal Oswal. So folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Pratik Oswal from Motilal Oswal.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. As we head into week 4 of lockdown, we're doing our best to make sure that we maintain our schedules and try and get you as many of the podcasts that you're used to listening as we possibly can, but beg your indulgence if there are any slippages in schedules and times. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
And welcome back to this really special episode of Paisa Vaisa. I'm talking with Pratik Oswal of Motilal Oswal. We are talking about the S&P 500 index fund that's going to be launched by Motilal Oswal pretty soon. We are recording this actually on 14th, so I guess the NFO opens tomorrow. So Pratik, tell us, what exactly is the S&P 500? I mean, a lot of us might actually know the S&P 500 index as such, but just walk us through the index first, and then we'll understand the product that you're launching. What is the S&P 500 index all about?
Sure. So, this is actually a really, I would say, a historic, at least for me personally, it's a very historic thing because, if you think about it, the first ever passive fund launched in the world was the S&P 500. And it was actually launched by the gentleman called Jack Bogle, who's the founder of this mutual fund company called Vanguard, which today is the world's biggest mutual fund. So what you're looking at is the S&P 500, which was launched in 1975 by so now the S&P 500 is the biggest and I would say the largest, most important, I would say, and also like the biggest index fund in the world. So just in terms of scale, let me put that in perspective. You're looking at approximately $10 trillion worth of money that's currently either managed or benchmarked with the S&P 500. So just to put that in perspective, the Indian economy will be around $3.5 trillion. And you're looking at 3 times of the Indian economy that's being managed by this or benchmarked to this fund. So I think it's a very important fund. It's a very important index, and I think the entire passivization as a philosophy, started with this fund in 1970s. And if you've seen, this fund is now over 60 years old. So I think it started in, I think the first performance is linked to the 1930s. So I think, it's a very long track record. And the reason why the track record is very important is because, today, if I'm a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old, 35-year-old, I'm looking to invest for, say, 30, 40 years, at least, for my retirement. And what the S&P 500 has done is that, not only has it survived 50 years, where I would say three-fourths of all of the funds have either shut down or merged, it's also thrived. Today it's one of the biggest funds in the world. I think if someone asks about how the US economy is doing, they talk about the S&P 500. So I think a lot of historical significance and importance to this fund. So what is the S&P 500? S&P 500 is the top 500 companies in the US, listed across all exchanges. So I think one big difference that people ask me between the NASDAQ is only concerned with the company that are listed on the NASDAQ exchange, whereas the S&P 500 is, I would say, across all exchanges. And it's also all large cap securities. So in the US, so in India, if you look at SEBI recapitalization, top 100 companies are all large cap companies. Whereas in the US, the top 500 have been large cap companies. So what you're getting is, the top 500 companies in the US. So I think, and the reason why the top 500 is important is because they're all very prominent brands.
Right.
So today, if I showed you a picture of the logos of the top 500 companies in the US, versus the logos of the top 500 companies in India, I'm pretty sure that the average person would probably recognize the US brands a lot better than the Indian brands. So you're talking about Apple, Google, Coca-Cola, Pfizer, FedEx, all these companies that have operations in India. And I would say most of these guys are companies that we use on a daily basis. So I think, which is why this, I think so we're getting some of the world's biggest and best brands. And just to point out, even though this is I think where the subject of this conversation is international investing, and even though the S&P 500 is, say, a US denominated fund, it's a USD fund, it's important to understand that, I think 40 to 45% of its sales of all the companies in the S&P 500 are actually coming from their global operations.
Okay.
So what that means is that, I think if you look at some of the top companies, the FANG stocks, in fact, their US businesses are doing steady, 5, 10, 15% a year, but their exponential sort of revenue, exponential growth is coming for their operations in, say, emerging markets like India, Eastern Europe, Europe, all of that. So I think what you're getting is actually, companies that are now global operations, they're growing really well. And I think that is what investors can expect. So it's a very diversified index. And I think when I was managing money for folks in the US, and these are hundreds of people, I never came across someone who did not have an S&P 500 in their portfolio. So I think it's become a bit of a default fund. So that is the S&P 500.
Okay. So we've understood the index. Tell us about the offering from Motilal Oswal. The new fund offer, the NFO, that's going to hit us literally tomorrow, because we're recording this on 14th. I believe the NFO goes live tomorrow, and it is from 15th to the 23rd, is it?
Yes, that's right. So 15th to 23rd. So it starts tomorrow, and I think goes on till Thursday of next week. So, so in terms of Motilal Oswal fund, so we've been we've been managing the Nasdaq for almost 9 years now, and what we've learned is that actually holding stocks directly is a lot more efficient than going through a sort of if we bought, say, a Vanguard or an iShares fund in the US. So in terms of the fund, I think just background about why we ended up launching this fund is we already had a Nasdaq fund which gave people international diversification, but one of the big pushbacks came that the Nasdaq is not as diversified. It's very heavily allocated to technology stocks. Which is also one of the reasons why it's done phenomenally well. But I think for someone who's looking to buy just a simple broad-based index or a fund, the S&P makes a lot more sense for the average person. So I think that's what the rationale towards launching this fund. So in terms of what this fund is, I think unlike the Nasdaq fund, this fund is an index fund. It's not an ETF. It's not a fund of funds.
Okay.
So by index fund, I mean it runs like it's very similar to, say, a Nifty 50 index fund, where we will basically be buying the securities. So we'll be buying 500 securities on behalf of the customer, in the US markets, when they open at around 7:00 in the evening. And it will be run like a fund. So investors don't have to worry about, going through a market maker, broker, exchange. They can just, sort of deposit money to us, and we'll be able to give them units the same day, end of day. So it's a very simple fund, and I think that is one of the key sort of tenets about why this fund is very customer centric. In terms of I think how the workings of the fund are. So in terms of I think one common question I get is, how is the NAV calculated?
Yeah.
So in terms of the NAV, which is the end of day price, the NAV is a combination of two things. The NAV for today, so if you put money, say, today before 3 p.m., which is the cutoff period, you would be getting yesterday's closing prices in the US. So whatever closed yesterday in the US, let's say, I think that is as of 2:30 a.m. India time, plus today's exchange rate as of 5 p.m. So if you combine those two things, then you come to the NAV, and that is what the customer will get when he is investing as well as when he's redeeming. So the beauty about this calculation is that most investors will actually know the NAV from before. So they will actually know what price they are getting in when they're investing in this fund. So I think
that's something that's just not possible in India, right? Because in India you have to give it during market hours, and
exactly.
You will never know the close. Wow, I didn't think of that. And probably there might be some bit of a opportunity, say in holidays, right? Because 4th of July is a holiday in the US, it's not out, and vice versa also.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's a holiday, then you'll be getting the NAV as of 2 days ago or whatever it is. So I think that is. It makes it simple for people to know exactly what price they're getting, and I think it's overall. My whole idea was to incentivize the product as much as possible, and just to I think just to explain. So we won't be buying an offshore fund. We'll actually be buying the underlying stocks. So when you see your statement, you will be seeing the names of the companies that you're investing in. So you are actually holding equity or buying shares in some of the world's largest companies.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I just thought that this is you're probably doing a fund of funds kind of thing where you. Oh wow, okay. So that's in the account statement you'll actually get to see the 500 names, is it?
That's right. You'll be seeing the 500 names. And I think the reason why we also have this, because so as someone who likes passive funds, you want to reduce risk wherever possible. The idea is to remove bias, remove risk. And if you're looking at this fund from say the 10 years or 20 years or 30 year perspective, if you're doing a feeder fund, then there is some AMC risk involved with that. As you're seeing, a lot of AMCs in the US are now consolidating, and we don't want that complexity to happen for investors in India. So I think that is the risk that we're trying to manage.
Okay, a couple of questions here. Okay, first is the obvious one, the costs. So what would be the cost of the S&P 500 index fund that you're launching?
Yeah, so in terms of cost, the TER for this fund is going to be 1% for the regular plan and 0.5% for the direct plan. So it's going
0.5%. Wow, that's you. Yes. So you're still managing to keep it like really low, even for an international investment.
Yes, yeah. So I'll be honest, the costs for us are quite high, at least. But the idea is to sort of make it available and make sure that investors are So my job, I have to make sure that investors get returns that are as close to the index as possible. So I have to keep my costs low and I have to make sure my expense ratio is also very low. Because if I give it at a very high price, even though I get flows, I'm not doing the job that I'm supposed to do, which is managing the index fund. So I think the idea is to obviously hope that this fund scales up, and then and that's when we can start sort of making some revenue. But so that we kept the cost low, and I think the whole tenet about index funds is to buy cheap, buy low cost.
Okay. And, go on. Sorry.
No, and in terms of I think one big question that I get is I think why should people buy index funds abroad? And so two reasons. One is that I think we all know that picking a fund manager in India is harder. It is. I think finding someone to manage money outside of India is even harder. Plus, we don't understand the local regulations, the economy and all of that. So might as well just put it in a simple index fund where you're also saving fees. That's number one. Number two is that what data says is that in efficient markets such as the US, 90% of the active funds are being outperformed by the index. So I think it's more to understand that I think when you're looking at say investing for very long time periods, hopefully for at least for 5 to maybe 10 years time, then it's important to hold the index where you're sort of confident that you will do better than most other funds out there. So I think that there are two, and I think if you look at the US today, I would say more than 100% of capital is going to say passive funds today.
Okay, couple of more questions on the costing side. What about loads, and most importantly, what about taxation?
Yes, very good question. In terms of loads, so this fund has an exit load for up to 3 months of 1%. So the reason why we have a load is because it helps us manage tracking errors. So whatever money we make, that load gets invested back into the fund. Good for investors holding for long term. And second is because we don't want investors trading in and out the fund. The idea is that this fund should be a part of our asset allocation, 5 to 10% minimum. And I think it adds cost for us if people are trading in and out. I think those are reasons to why we have an expense ratio. Exit load. In terms of the tax structure, so as per regulations in India, all international funds are taxed as debt. So debt taxation applies for all international funds. Having said that, if I would strongly recommend investors to hold these instruments for very long time periods. So if you're holding it for say 3 years plus, then you can actually get gains from indexation. what that means is that, if you're paying a 20% tax rate post 3 years, you can adjust that by indexation. So I think over time, if you hold it for 3 years plus, then you can expect the same taxation as equity. So I think it's good that investors. I mean, and it's a good thing because then you're pushing investors to hold this for a very long time, which I think everyone should.
Okay, understood. The last question I have on the show: what do I need to sign up?
Yeah, so as in to subscribe for this fund?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
so would you? It's like asking where would you be available? And if I'm someone who's absolutely new to investing, which believe me, a lot of people are these days, because this fall in the market has caused a lot of people, at least a few braver ones, I would say, to actually think, I've never invested in equity. How do I start? So for someone who's absolutely new to the entire process, what would he need to sign up?
Yeah. So
where should he go?
Yeah. So we've always believed in making sure that everyone has access to all these products. So even though the costs are slightly higher, we made sure that the minimum ticket size is 500 rupees. So that is what. So investors can basically buy 500 of the biggest companies in the world at 500 rupees. So I think that is something that's very exciting. But I think in terms of where you can buy it, so because it's a mutual fund structure, investors can buy it from any mutual fund platform in India, which are offering NFO facilities. I think if investors are using, say, apps for investing, which I know now is becoming a lot more popular.
We've had a bunch of them on our show, so I'm sure that if our listeners have been listening in, they know which apps to go to. Okay.
Yeah. So most of these apps, I would say, at least the major ones, have this facility. So I think that's a good thing. So all investors can participate from tomorrow onwards through these apps. There's also a website. So the MOMC website has obviously. So we've had. So we have a dedicated NFO page, and people can just put in the PAN numbers and transact out there. It's super simple. Apart from that, we also people can buy it off the exchanges, which are obviously open over the next 1 week. And I understand that there is a lockdown, so this is it's a very I would say unusual launch because almost every salesperson, every advisor, even me, I'm launching this sitting at home. So I think the offline model is something which we may or may not be able to, I would say, at least do it at this point in time. But what we've seen so far is that, I think over 90 to 95% of all, I think at least the transactions are now coming online. So I think increasingly, I think the offline world is getting less relevant. So I think we are, as an AMC, we've prepped ourselves. We've worked a lot of hard. I mean, I'll be honest. So I'm more of the front for the AMC, but the amount of hard work that people have done in the company just to make sure that this NFO goes through without any hiccups is absolutely phenomenal. So I think that for me is the most commendable thing, and which is why we're able to offer this product at this sort of a time.
Sounds good. I had missed out one question which I should have slipped in much earlier, but I thought about it right now, so I thought I'll just ask it. The tracking error, what does that show, historically for the simulations that you've run for this fund?
Yes. So I can talk about the tracking error of this fund, and I can talk about the history of tracking errors with the international funds. So in terms of tracking error, one thing is I think investors, at least guys who are new to index funds, it's close to impossible to get returns that are exact of the index. So there are certain costs involved. So I think investors who buy index funds, they need to sort of know that they will underperform the index by a small amount every year, because obviously you have to take into account expenses and transaction costs, and also I think expense ratio would be a big component. So I think in terms of this fund, we see two sources of tracking error over the long term. So number one is expense ratio. So if you're maybe buying a direct plan, so 0.5% is something that you should assume as the expense ratio. On top of that, so I think this I haven't covered in the podcast, but so for international investing, so when you're investing abroad, every country has a separate withholding tax. When you're so that withholding tax is close to for US, it's close to 30 to 40% on dividends only. So what that means is today the S&P 500 in fact has one of the highest dividend yields, 2.5% every year, and the investors in India will only see, I would say, 60 to 70% of that over the long run. So the rest will be taxed out by the US government. So that is also that also leads to some tracking error. So I think these two sources are I would say the main source of tracking error. Obviously, there are short-term bits as well, but that is something which normalize over time because
understood.
And also with just to give an example of a Nasdaq fund, tracking error over the last I would say 3 years has been around 0.2% annualized. So I think we've sort of learned a lot, and we're using the exact same frameworks and structure for this fund as well.
So that's not much. That is good to know. Okay, so that's a wrap, folks. That is Pratik Oswal from Motilal Oswal, and we were talking about the S&P 500 index fund that's going to be launched tomorrow, 15th of April, and will be open till 23rd of April. I think this podcast is going to be out on Monday, the 20th. So we'll probably have 3 more days to go. I hope that was useful for you. And you can always reach out to the Motilal Oswal guys on their Twitter handles, on their webpage. Pratik, what's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, so I'm at Pratik Oswal 88, I think. So I'm pretty active on Twitter, LinkedIn.
And there are a whole bunch of you. And there are a whole bunch of people from Motilal Oswal who are active on Twitter, and they are quite responsive. I've had the pleasure of having a few of them on my show also, but other than that, they are pretty cool to talk with. So you can reach out to them. You could check out the website. The website already has all the documents that you need, and the usual disclaimer: please read how should I go? Wait, hold on, let me get this right. Please read fund offer document carefully before investing. Is that right, Pratik?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so
I think you missed the part where it says mutual fund investment trusts are subject to market risk.
Oh, let me say that again. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Please read the offer document carefully before investing, and I seriously recommend that you do that. There's a whole lot of literature out there on Motilal Oswal's website about the S&P 500 index fund that's going to be launched out there. I am really looking forward. I hope that this gets a nice, big, chunky AUM, assets under management, and it gets a good response, because believe me, this is the first time I think that we've got this route, to invest in the 500 largest companies in the US, and an index that I think is the largest and the most liquid in the world. Would I be right in saying that, Pratik?
That is right.
$10 trillion is a huge amount.
So just to give you a statistic, 3 out of 4 of the largest mutual funds in the world are all S&P 500s.
3? Wow. Okay. Okay. Fine. So that makes a lot of difference. And since our show is not really about market timing or anything of that sort, it's also probably a happy coincidence that that the index fund is launched at a time when markets have fallen.
Yeah.
Obviously, all of us hope that forget markets, but the world recovers really soon from this crisis that we're all going through together. Once again, thanks to everybody out there who is fighting this battle for us. And folks, as always, stay safe during this lockdown, after this lockdown, and for the rest of your lives. And thank you so much for listening. That is a wrap on this episode of Paisa Vaisa. My guest, Pratik Oswal of Motilal Oswal, and we were talking about the S&P index, the S&P 500 index fund that's going to be launched. Pratik, thank you so much for doing this for us.
Yeah, thank you, Anupam. It's been super fun, and I hope to do this again.
Thank you.
No material on the show should be considered as financial advice. The material on the show is for informational purposes only. Please consult a financial advisor before taking any investment decision.
Hi, I'm Sarayu Natarajan.
And I'm Alok Prasanna Kumar.
And we are the hosts of the Ganatantra podcast.
On this podcast, we speak to academics, social scientists, journalists, and activists to find out what's actually going on in Indian politics.
On this podcast, we stay away from personality politics, intrigue, and gossip, and instead focus on the data, research, and analysis that drives all this.
So tune in to the Ganatantra podcast, where new episodes are out every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे पॉडकास्ट लगते हैं. नाम है फुटबॉल शुटबॉल.
Presenting Football Shortball, a show about 3 friends discussing our favorite game over a beer. Sometimes 3, maybe even 5. Hi, I'm Shiva, and with me are my 2 sidekicks, Gaurav Sapre and Karthik Iyer.
Sidekick? You mean like Batman's Robin or Van Persie Robin?
No, I mean like Alexis Sanchez, but with a little more skill than just playing the piano.
Just shows how the best players at Arsenal are mere bench warmers at United.
Oh, thank you, Iyer. But you're a Fulham supporter, so whenever you say anything to support me, I question my beliefs.
Just like how Griezmann would say, एक बार मैंने जो decision ले लिया, तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता.
Banter aside, we will talk match reports, transfer rumors, top controversies, fantasy football picks, and so much more. So grab a beer and tune in to Football Should Ball every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.